my nigga gon' brag. Still keep it hood, girls, all good jeans, still on side. Bank account nigga work out cause it's so fat. And you know we get the bag. And you know we get the bag. And you know I get the bag. We get the
Run it up, you wanna ride around in the big truck? Her and that nigga, they done broke it up, way back in the Maybach, suck it up. Call it flame with the gang, take a trip. Shit, man, you was saying shit, rip. I get the bag, I've been the level when I do the dash. All of my figures are blast. When we get your bitch and I smash. I'ma see what's out the door, just a pledge. With the product with the single around, yeah. I'ma turn 100 to a million, no finesse. I'ma take a jet for the gang, can we play? And my neck, white coat, VVS. White coat, put the paddock on, crystal light milk. Get the bag, no help myself. I'ma buy everything on the shelf. Now we in Dubai with the water like Phelps. Keep it secret, keep it quiet, don't tell. Yo, nigga, up my wealth. My trip ain't fell, my club ain't fell. I feel like this my year. Spend $250,000 on my ear, $250,000. I'ma get the bag all year. I'ma hit your bitch from the rear. Hop up in the coupe with the gear. Riding in the race with the shears.
know we get the bag. And you know we get the bag. And you know I get the bag. We get the bag.
All right. I guess the ones that's true to the game, we know why we're here. The $1 million question when we first started this journey. Why ain't R. Kelly speaking up against these allegations? We keep hearing the media talk about how everybody knows this and everybody knows that. However, if you did a little digging, you would realize it's funny how it wasn't a problem to a certain time period in which I believe certain people used clout chasers to their advantage. Why do I say that? Well, if you've heard a little bit of the audio from R. Kelly on these platforms, you will notice that he's talking about the corruption within this BOP officer, correct? And we all know that a specific blogger come out here and told us that she had access to this information. She passed it to Jane Doe's father. They sent all this information to the Jane Doe. Some of us watched a lot of tampering with this specific Jane Doe, and in my opinion, she was needed in order to cooperate to validate all these other Jane Does whose allegations don't mean shit. Okay? So, in a nutshell, if people start paying attention to the outcry that's coming now and focus on this BOP, it will unravel a whole slew of corruption, not just with the BOP, in my opinion. Now, it's very funny and very comical that Tasha K now comes out and she says she wants to do a surviving the parents. Now, in reviewing my content, you will notice that the number one issue I had, and some of you witnessed just like I did, was when she first came out and enlightened the public of this Homeland investigation that would turn out. But same thing I said then is, how would she know about said investigation if, according to the news, all of this investigating came as a byproduct of surviving R. Kelly? So let's dig a little bit deeper. Let's hypothetically say they've been investigating the man since the first trial, as some will speculate. Well, wouldn't it be common sense that they would have had way more evidence than they had instead of compiling a whole slew of so-called bad act witnesses in order to corroborate their case? Now, I'm going to drop the link at some point, because I do want some other people to come on up and join. Shout out to everybody in the chat. What's up, bro? Dana J, I see you down there. J Rock, Miss Lady T. But Gemini, everybody in the chat, shout out to y'all. But it don't take a genius to put two and two together to realize I don't necessarily think R. Kelly is expecting specific people to do anything about some of the things that he's exposing. As I said then, believe it's to create people to start talking about the issue at hand. Because this not only affects Robert Kelly, it affects all inmates who might not have the same celebrity factor as R. Kelly, but has the same rights. And I find it very fucking funny that you have people being accused of murder and all this other shit who can get a bond and properly defend themselves. Meanwhile, this man was denied so many opportunities to get a bond as we watched individuals from the outside come in and have so much interaction with his legal defense. Meanwhile, everybody's still asking the same questions. Why don't R. Kelly speak up? He tells you, even in the past case, his attorneys advised him to stay quiet. Just like anybody with common sense would know, when you have an ongoing investigation, you would remain quiet. But I don't expect people who don't even realize in certain locations, they don't even Mirandize you anymore when they arrest you. They tell you some shit like the judge will read you your rights in court. Meanwhile, what the hell does that say in between the time you got arrested and the time you go to court? Ain't it still your right to be read your rights, Mirandized? But people don't like to talk about the issues at hand because the news did such a great job making this a whole shit show. Nobody wanted to talk about it when it really would have made a better impact. See, it's cool that some people who turned a blind eye are now interested in hearing Robert Kelly's side. But it's fucking funny. That's what his supporters have been saying. Just my opinion, if you review things like the Boondocks and all of the other comedic satire that's been put out all these years, it's almost like the public has been groomed to automatically assume R. Kelly's supporters don't know what the hell they talking about. We're delusional and we're crazed fans. So for those sitting at the back of the bus, let me enlighten you. We ain't got to sit at the back of the bus no more, boo-boo. Come on to the front. Because what I've been telling you is that I can sit back and watch all of this fuck shit play out and not involve myself. Watch the people who so anxiously did. And watch how everybody want to keep tiptoeing around the facts. Now, if we're going to call out corruption on one end, we ain't just going to tiptoe around all of the corruption, all of the criminal complaints that should have been in place, and all of the misconduct investigations that should have occurred along this whole process, instead of watching a man be convicted, not once, but twice. Watching so-called witnesses be paraded around like some goddamn movie stars and shit. And then the prosecutors try to build this shitty ass case about witness intimidation, obstruction of justice. So you mean to tell me they didn't watch the same things we watched? They didn't hear their co-conspirators. They didn't hear their informants. They didn't hear none of the stuff we heard that exposed the corruption within this case from the beginning. But let's focus on the issue at hand, because I'm going to play the audio of the latest, which was on Kwame Brown's channel. The link is on my community tab if y'all want to go look at the whole live. I personally ain't going to watch a whole 3-hour live. And like I've said before, it's not necessary for the supporters like me, like Dana J, like some of the other real supporters who know what's really going on, to distinguish the clickbait, to distinguish from all of this newfound interest from the gangsters. It don't take a genius to recognize that R. Kelly is laying out. If they could find him guilty of a RICO, what does that say about all these gang individuals, as I've said before? You got people who did this docu-series, said all these hood niggas was in the back, but ain't nobody had sense to get ahead of none of these salacious stories. But now, oh now, when the appeal's coming out, everybody's wanting to be razzle-dazzle about what R. Kelly's saying. When I've documented it all right for you. Just take a trip down my community tab. Because everything that he said, I can validate. And that ain't no conspiracy contrary to what DJ Glad had to say. And it's just funny when I see these individuals that do these interviews going back and forth about who's working for the feds when I told you clear as day, this they platforms. The fuck you mean? So with that being said, there was a lot of interference within this case, but we're going to focus on the BOP. Can do their lives uninterrupted. Why in the hell, every time I try to do my live, it's always some bullshit. Can you hear me now? Oh my goodness, this mess. Mic check, mic check. Am I back? This junk is playing. All right, I don't even know what I just said, so I think it might be best for me not to play nobody else's content since my live already bullshitting. So, like I said, the Kwame interview and the WAC 100 interview is posted in my community tab. Now I want you to go and listen to the words straight from his mouth. And when you review my content and what I'm about to tell you and walk you through that I documented, that I personally can say is true, then maybe it will put more context to the fact that just like hell, Ice Cube can go on his Gatekeepers tour and all these other artists can come out and do their subliminals when they in these fucked up contracts. The message has been right in people's face this whole time, and a lot of people downplayed it. And even when Kwame Brown or WAC 100 said something about it in the past, again, they had these big platforms. The supporters only had so many ears. So with that being said, it don't take a genius to recognize why it's necessary for R. Kelly's voice, his voice, to validate some of the information that has been documented that will come back in his appeal. Now, people want to focus on this BOP, this one Jane Doe, but like I said, platform speaking on the topic should have been doing from day one instead of going along with the bullshit. Now, that was the main message I wanted to get out because my live is obviously tripping, but the things that he's talking about, number one, if you review his paperwork, you would notice that he had a conflict of interest hearing a while back, right? And it involved a specific defense attorney by the name of Nicole Becker. Now, we have documented so much jankiness that went on around all of this defense team that it is blatantly clear the man had an ineffective counsel. So when you go back to this hearing and you review that it's a possibility R. Kelly was blinded to the fact that his defense was obviously working against him, which is why if you review why they were denying his bond, the prosecutors were telling people, telling the judge, making it known this defense team ain't right. Okay? So then when you have them paired up in a docuseries that happens to document the flip from Azriel Clary being a loving, devoted girlfriend to the star witness everybody needed her to be, it should be no brainer that if you factor in that, number one, R. Kelly comes out after being convicted, after reviewing everything that happened to him, not to me, not to anybody who saw it play out, but to come out here and say, hey, I've been informed that this witness had contact information or my jail records, my attorney information. People were feeding her certain things, which is why she decided to cooperate. Even though she was always in the indictment, it should shape why certain people were coming out abusing these platforms to get others to stick to these scripts they put into play. Now, moving on past the conflict of interest hearing, when the judge asked him, does he want to proceed with Nicole, which had a strange kind of relationship with so many individuals, including the Jane Doe, he decided to proceed. But with that being said, his power of attorney came in and fired other council members, brought in other defense people, then brought in individuals who claimed to be doing things on his behalf that clearly came back to bite him in the butt. But that's neither here nor there, because moving right along. In the trial, R. Kelly makes it clear that he believes his privacy is being violated. The judge talks about this, in which she deems that she doesn't believe this so-called tampering and interference that R. Kelly himself has pointed out affected his case, even though we have documented the before and after of how this specific witness acted before being exposed to certain information and after being exposed to certain information. So, with that being said, what does that mean? Well, think about the fact you also hear the media playing with his music, talking about the prosecutors seeking all these royalties for these accusers to get therapy and all this other bullshit. Is it just me, or do anybody realize that that's been my major argument when trying to structure a case around misconduct, around the janky business dealings of other individuals, and packaging it up as a RICO would backfire on an appeal. Kind of the same way all these people did the work to get Bill Cosby put in jail and then him being released upon his appeal. And then people saying he's released on a technicality when nobody realizes the technicality and how they specifically tried to charge him to get what they wanted. Now, some people might not find anything wrong with that, but what if it happened to you? So, hypothetically, let's say you don't feel like the things that R. Kelly is talking about affected his case. You, like Glad, feel like it's a conspiracy. What would be your attitude if it happened to someone in your family? If it has happened to someone in your family and you have no resources to fight back? I'll let you ponder on that, and I'll end this live and hope that in your spare time you'll review my community tab to the videos that I've lined up for you, because as some may realize, I'm a visual kind of person. So with the screenshots and with the videos I'm presenting, I'm also painting you the picture of all the things that Robert Kelly himself came out and told you. That this Jane Doe stole